We all have things that make us happy. Everyone's is different, but ask the average person what makes them happy, and they'd say their friends, their family, maybe a partner, potentially their job, a couple of hobbies, and of course food and sleep. Some people might include gambling, drinking or drugs on this list too. And for a person whose happiness looks healthy like this, that is completely fine. It only becomes problematic if something else goes wrong. Maybe things have been going a little rough recently. Maybe there's a divorce, an illness, or accident. But something happens and now one of the pieces is missing. And when one piece leaves, it isn't going to be the only one that gets affected. You lost your job, there were going to be layoffs coming, but you never actually thought it'd be you. Every alternative applied for just leads to some variant of the word no, or is downright ignored. A few months into unemployment and money starting to get tight. You and your partner have been arguing about it for the last few weeks now, only for nothing to be resolved. You realise it's been a long time since you heard them laugh, and you missed that. Your friends and family are sympathetic, but you no longer want pity. They find you job applications and adverts, but none of them seem to be quite right, and when you tell them this they get annoyed. It's been a long time since you laughed with them. And now you don't have the money, you can't afford your hobbies. It's been a long time since you were so lost in an interest that you forgot about everything else around you. You start to feel sad, and no one likes to feel sad. So you'll do everything you can to keep your happiness the same. All aspects of happiness can come and go depending on your situation, except for substances, because as long as you have access, it guarantees happiness every time. So now the substance has to become a bigger part of the happiness you've lost. And that just one more leads to just another 5. You find yourself making excuses and flawed logic to keep taking. And now you're not so sad. You keep it hidden for a while, maybe a few months, maybe a few years, but eventually people start to notice. You deny it. You tell them the same excuses you told yourself and become defensive. Because you're not sad anymore. It's not a problem, and you don't need help. But your friends seem to think otherwise. They try to convince you to take it easy, lay off for a little while. But they're just being controlling, and who are they to question your choices? They don't understand. You don't need help. But recently your interests have started to become a whole lot less interesting. Food doesn't taste the same, and it's been a long time since you've created anything, but that doesn't matter. You're too busy spending time using anyway. And you don't need help. But your family are starting to get worried. They won't lend you money anymore, and some of them are downright avoiding you. The next time you visit, you arrive only to receive a lecture, and a rehearsed one at that. They planned this. They'd always been overcritical and judgmental, and they don't understand. You don't need help. But now your partner's getting angry too. You're fighting even more, and when they storm out of the house, you wonder if you'll ever see them again. But they come back. You tell them that you're sorry, and that you love them, and you'll never use again. And you really mean it. You really do. So you stop completely. And it lasts for a few days, but it's not going as well as you thought, and you're thinking about using constantly. I mean, when you said you'd stop completely, you never meant you'd stop entirely, right? You take again. It's just a few and they won't notice. But when you come back home with that glassy look in your eyes, the expression on their face has you wishing you could go back and never take it. You tell them that you're sorry, that you love them, and that you'll never use again. And you really mean it. You really do. But you've said this one too many times now. They storm out of the house and you're left wondering if they'll ever come back again. They don't. And now you're alone. Now you're really alone. Because the only source of happiness left is the addiction. And at this point, happiness isn't even the right word to describe it anymore. It's a pleasure that's painful, a reward that's its own punishment. The only thing keeping you going and the only thing that's stopping you. Maybe you do need help. Because at some point you have to realise that these stairs aren't leading to anywhere worth going. Only turning around isn't so simple, because it's going to be a long climb back up all those stairs you fell down. It takes months to crawl up a flight of stairs only to fall back down in a matter of minutes, and somehow falling back to where you were before feels worse than if you never tried to leave in the first place. But recovery only stops when you stop trying to recover, and you're not done just yet. Therapy, rehabilitation, detoxification, medication. You try some or all of them, and some don't help, but some do, and those are the ones that you focus on. It felt as if your family abandoned you, but now you can see the ones that mattered had never actually left. They were just waiting for you to come back. You tell them that you're sorry, and they tell you that they're sorry. Everyone's apologising and no one's sure why, but that doesn't matter anymore. It had been a long time since you hugged someone. You start to reach out to friends too. You realise you've outgrown some of them now, but that's okay. You meet up with the ones that mattered, and it's the first time you've laughed in a long time. You promise yourself to never forget how amazing that feeling is. Soon you're back trying your interests. It's slow at first, and you have to relearn some things, but when you do, you get to fall in love with it all over again, and you're reminded of that first time you discovered your passion all those years ago. A little while later and you're thinking about relationships. Things have changed. You've changed. And now knowing what an existence without love feels like, you know that love is something that should never be taken for granted. Trust is something hard to recover, but lately you've become good at recovering things. When you first started recovering, you told yourself that things would get better. It was a lie and you didn't actually believe it. At least not at first anyway. But now you're starting to see otherwise. Darkness doesn't take away hope. It just stops you from seeing that it's there. And it only takes a bit of light to realise that it never left.